Federal government charges private sector and businesses in Nigeria to tap into AfCFTA treaty. NNPC presents first budget in 43 years to National Assembly. No improperly registered SIM on networks, says Pantami. World Health Organization urges African countries to ramp up readiness for COVID-19 vaccination drive. The program is Business Express and it's reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Uplang Dakok. Thank you again for joining us on the program. As the AfCFTA Continental Free Trade Area Treaty comes to force January 2021, Nigerian businesses and the entire private sector have to become conversant and knowledgeable with the rules, as this would be required so as to benefit maximally from the treaty. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this at the opening session of the 52nd Annual National Conference of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. He noted it is imperative for Nigerian businesses to also familiarize themselves with AfCFTA rules because they will have to assist in providing the evidence to trigger action on trade remedies by government. The Vice President added that building productive capacity is only the first step, and the ability of businesses and entrepreneurs to integrate successfully into the opportunities of the AfCFTA also depends a great deal on strengthening our domestic ability to facilitate trade. And data from the National Bureau of Statistics on company income tax breakdown by sectors for the third quarter of 2020 reflects that 416.01 billion naira was registered as company income tax CIT, as against 402.03 billion naira generated in the second quarter of 2020 and 520.89 billion naira in the third quarter of 2019, representing 3.48% increase quarter on quarter and 20.13% decrease year on year. Professional services, including telecoms, generated the highest amount of CIT with 55.52 billion naira generated, and closely followed by other manufacturing, which generated 42.03 billion naira. Banks, financial institutions generated 24.05 billion naira, while mining generated the least, and closely followed by textile and garment industry and local government councils with 120.93 million naira, 167.51 million naira, and 321.72 million naira. Out of the total amount generated in the third quarter of 2020, 244.70 billion naira was generated as CIT locally, while 70.34 billion naira was generated as foreign CIT payment. The balance of 100.97 billion naira was generated as CIT from other payments. Minister of State, Trade and Investment Mariam Katagum says lack of access to affordable and credible business development services has been one of the major challenges against the development of MSMEs in the country. But this will soon be a thing of the past. She said this at the inauguration of the National Steering Committee of the National Business Development Services Provider Certification and Accreditation Framework. The major aim of the framework is to set a standard for business development services intervention, which can attend to MSMEs in Nigeria to achieve a dream MSME sector.
Showed that there were 41.5 million MSMEs employing 59.6 million persons, representing 76.5% of the labor force. The relevance of this committee cannot be overemphasized, as it is expected to effectively coordinate the certification and accreditation process to ensure that a high level of transparency and credibility is brought to bear on the framework.
Anybody going into this business must be well trained, well certified, and then before he gets into the system. We selected you from your various endeavors so that you will do justice to those people trained by ensuring that they got what they deserve.
As the race to find a safe and effective COVID-19 vaccine is showing increasing promise, a new World Health Organization analysis finds that Africa is far from ready for what will be the continent's largest ever immunization drive. All 47 countries in the WHO African region have received WHO's vaccine readiness assessment, which is intended to be used by ministries of health with support from WHO and UNICEF. It provides a roadmap for countries to plan for COVID-19 vaccine introduction, and it covers 10 key areas. 40 countries have updated the tool and provided data to World Health Organization. Now, one sure way of combating the coronavirus is through vaccination, which is a critical tool that will assist to bring the pandemic under control when combined with effective testing and prevention measures. To speak on the economic implications and benefits of the COVID-19 vaccine to the global economy, with particular focus on Nigeria, is a medical practitioner, Dr. Mike Omotosho. Dr. Omotosho, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dan.
All right. So how welcoming is this COVID-19 vaccine development to you?
Well, it is a welcome development because research is still ongoing on how strong the vaccine itself can actually help with protection and how long it lasts. Because WHO itself is looking into whether the strength and the length of the immune responses depends on the type of the infection the person is having. If the person is a type that will show symptoms or without symptoms, but in all of this, I think it's important for us to understand that the developments that we're seeing are very crucial because we must be careful not to misunderstand them. It's important to understand the way vaccines work. Let me give you an instance, like the polio vaccines that we know have been using actually took about 23 years to develop. The rotavirus vaccine took 26 years. In fact, the irony of the rotavirus is that in 1998, when it was invented, a year later, 1999, it was stopped again.
All right, Pfizer and BioNTech are reporting that for the vaccine that they have is about 90% effective. And that is
That's
giving
true.
concerns as to the efficacy that is expected to be achieved. What do you make of this in terms of global economic confidence in the vaccine?
Well, that's exactly what I was even explaining earlier on. You said because these vaccines actually take time. I think the minimum time to develop a vaccine is actually 10 years. So you see vaccines taking 23, 26 years. So when you see the likes of Pfizer, Moderna, Oxford University coming up with vaccines under 1 year, then we're a little worried. It's okay, it's not a problem, but I want us to appreciate the fact that we should not be misinformed. What Pfizer is saying is that they've gotten an approval they've gotten what they need to request an approval for the third and final phase, which will be an expedited approval from the NAFDAC here. meaning once they can get approval for expedited emergency use, not in normal circumstances. So instead of, like we will say in Nigeria, half bread is better than nothing. So when we don't have anything, it's better to actually have that. But when it comes to real vaccine technology, it is not adequate at all. It is not adequate. But however, scientists all over the world have greeted this with caution. In fact, cautious optimism, I will say. But then it should not dampen our enthusiasm. It shouldn't. It shouldn't at all.
All right. In terms of value, what do you think the vaccine is going to bring to the table? Talking about for Africa and the world at large.
Okay, let's look at it holistically. For every ailment, there are just two sides. There's the prevention and then there's the treatment. So now the vaccines that we're all talking about is basically for prevention. Nobody is talking about treatment yet, because the treatment that we have are all speculative, using hydroxychloroquine, using azithromycin and all the others. They're basically speculative. So we don't have a clear-cut treatment yet. So even the vaccines that we're talking about, we're not even sure what will happen in a few months' time, in a few years' time. What are the long-term side effects of these vaccines? So yes, we have something that we can say, yes, is helping us now, but how do we truly beat our chest and say, yes, this is going to keep us going throughout? So it's a little scary because the vaccine itself keeps mutating. I'll give you an instance. Just 2 days ago, in the Zhejiang province of China, in a kindergarten school, 50 people there's an outbreak of a new variant of something that looks like the COVID vaccine called the notovirus again. So you see, it keeps mutating, and that's where the problem is. So how do you attack an entity that keeps changing form? And that's where the problem is. But in all of those, we don't have a choice. We work with what we have. For instance, Pfizer has already tested over 40,000 people, and the efficacy is actually even 93% from what they've gotten. We know the problem is there are still some caveats here and there. For instance, somebody gets a shot today, and then they inoculate the person with the actual virus maybe a few days later, when the antibodies are still very high. So there are lots of misgivings here and there, but then it's better than having nothing at all.
All right, you talked about some of the steps already taken to guarantee safety or efficacy of the vaccine, but
Okay.
I would like to know, do you think that all preparations are already completed, or there's more to be done?
You mean for the vaccines or in Nigeria?
You said?
You mean for the vaccines or in Nigeria?
For the vaccines,
you're talking
generally.
of preparation. Oh, for the vaccines. Oh, well, yes, within limits. You see, like I said earlier, you see what Pfizer is routing for is an emergency authorization. It is not a normal process. In the case of a pandemic as we are now, once they've gone through the phase 1 and phase 2 trials, they now do phase 3 trials with human beings, and they're able to get good results. In fact, they were expecting about 50%, and now they're getting 93%. Then they're ready to go. And the U.S. Food and Drug Agency, which is the equivalent of our own NAFDAC here, gives an approval if you have been able to test up to 50% of your people. And they've gone more than 50% because they actually need to test just 163, and they've actually gotten 93 already. And they've tested over 43,000 people already, and they're already getting 93%. And what they need for an approval is just 50%. So yes, it is there, but they're not alone. There are several other companies too. There's Moderna too. They've gotten a similar approval. They're in the US too. There's the Oxford University in collaboration with AstraZeneca. They've also gotten approval in the UK for the third phase, and they are awaiting approval for the final phase. In fact, in all, we have over 10,000 full genome sequences, which we call candidate vaccine drugs, all over the world, including the ones from China, from Russia, from even India. So yes, all of them are coming up. Don't forget that the coronavirus that we're talking about is not new. It's the 19th, is the COVID-19 one that is new. That's a SARS-2. The MERS virus, the SARS virus, they're all coronaviruses because of the crown that they have. So that's what makes the development of new vaccines a lot easier, because they've already started working on it. Then all of a sudden they found out it's not a real pandemic, and then it all died down. But with the advent of COVID-19 now, they just picked up from where they left behind and then started moving.
All right, Dr. Omotosho, I know you are not an economist, you're a medical doctor, but what do you think is going to happen to production and the economy when this vaccine finally comes on for Nigeria and the world?
Well, basically, like with every pandemic, it provides an opportunity for drug manufacturers. Incidentally, I'm a pharmacist. For drug manufacturers to be able to pace the next chart a course for the next phase of healthcare delivery. You see, the way the vaccines are being manufactured will determine the prices that they will put on it. Let me give you an instance. Pfizer alone, their 2019 budget for research is about $8.6 billion. $8.6 billion. So they're charging their vaccines at an average of about $30. Now, the Moderna one is slightly cheaper at about $25, between $23 and $25, while the Oxford one comes at about £3, which is maybe $5. So all of those will, in a way, affect the overall economics. So those that want to go for premium pricing will go for that. Those that want to go for affordability will go for affordability, because even the UK one is not as if it's less effective. The efficacy, as we speak, is about 73%, which is okay. Once you have 50%, it's okay. So the overall economics will be affected by the way the countries respond to it. Unfortunately for us in Africa, we don't even have a say. You see, there's a saying in my place that when you give even a madman a hoe, he will hoe to his sides first. You know, so most of those countries are taking care of themselves. All the Pfizer vaccines that will be manufactured for 2021 are already pre-ordered by the UK, the US, and Europe. The one from Oxford University and AstraZeneca are already pre-ordered by the UK and some other places in Europe. So it's high time for us as a country here, or come together, agglutinate as a continent in Africa and say, okay, we're coming together to support a particular candidate drug so that we can have a say, because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Otherwise, we'll be exposed to the vagrancies of the economics of scale when the demand becomes unbearable. Because as it is now, besides some donor agencies like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that are buying a few, Africa, there is no African country that's come up to say, okay, this is what we're pre-ordering, this is what we're buying. So we will be left to the laws of some demand and supply when it comes there. But once we take the first mover advantage now, identify with one of those candidate vaccines that is promising, and then be a part of it, then we can have a say towards production and what we want locally.
All right, before I let you go, with the vaccine,
okay,
there is the belief that the world will not experience any lockdown as occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic in the past and as it is still going on. Is that good news to, you know, the world and the world economy?
Well, the truth of the matter is that you see, the vaccine itself is just one leg of solving the problem. That is where my major problem is. We're all excited about this vaccine, but nobody knows how long this immunity from the vaccine will last. Even Pfizer cannot tell you you're going to be protected for 1 month, for 6 months, for 1 year, for 5 years. Nobody knows. So it may just even be short-lived. Besides that, nobody knows the efficacy of the vaccine itself. Does it just prevent people from getting the full-blown disease, or it is also able to prevent transmission, meaning when you're a carrier, for instance, you may be asymptomatic, meaning you don't show symptoms, but you can still spread it. So we still cannot say if the vaccine can do all of this. And I previously mentioned the long and the short-term side effects of the vaccines. Nobody knows all of this. So we truly cannot say that it's uhuru yet, but it's a step in the right direction.
All right. Thank you so much. We've been speaking to Dr. Mike Omotosho via Zoom. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your time with us today on the program.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. The dollar held steady in thin trade on Friday, but was on track for weekly losses against a basket of major currencies as it remained under pressure on improving risk appetite. Let's see how the Naira is exchanging for other international currencies. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, has dismissed the claim that the Senate summoned him concerning the role of communication devices in national security. The minister in a statement said the claim was baseless, noting that there was no improperly registered SIM on networks after 9.2 SIMs were blocked in September 2019 based on the report submitted by the regulator NCC on the 26th of September 2019. He, however, vowed to sanction any individual or institution found wanting in the event of evidence to the contrary. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has hailed the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) for presenting its budget for the National Assembly for the first time. This was just as the Group Managing Director NNPC, Mele Kyari, told the House that all the refineries had been shut down as vandals, thieves, and weakness of the pipelines were frustrating supply of crude to the facilities. Kyari added that all the pipelines supplying commodities to the depots across the country had been shut due to security reasons. The NNPC had earlier in June 2020 made history by publishing its audited financial statements for the first time since 43 years of its existence. And talking commodities, oil prices were mixed on Friday in quiet trade due to the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday, with the West Texas Intermediate WTI dropping more than 1% amid concerns about oversupply and doubts about a vaccine to end the coronavirus pandemic. WTI was down by 69 cents at $45.02 a barrel. U.S. crude prices did not settle on Thursday due to the holiday. Brent crude was up by 9 cents at $47.89 a barrel, having fallen 1.7% overnight. Both benchmarks have risen about 6% this week after AstraZeneca earlier announced that its COVID-19 vaccine would be up to 90% effective, adding to successful trial results of two other developments in the fight to end the worst pandemic in a century. And still on commodities, gold prices steadied on Friday as investors took stock of doubts raised over the efficacy of a coronavirus vaccine. Let's see prices. I now hand over to Bosede Abel for global stock market updates.
European stocks were higher on Friday, 27th November, amid thin trading volumes as investors monitored vaccine news and fresh Chinese data. Stocks in Asia-Pacific notched higher on Friday as investors reacted to data on China's industrial profits for October. Shanghai Composite up 1.14% to 3,408.31. Hang Seng Index was 0.28% higher as of its final hour of trading, and Nikkei closed 0.4% higher at 26,644.71. U.S. stock index futures edged higher early Friday amid low trading activity due to the Thanksgiving holiday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average futures pointed to an opening gain of more than 50 points. Futures on the S&P 500 and Nasdaq also suggested a higher open. Africa's stocks soared in early trading, with Tunisia's Tunidex, Namibia's overall index, and Nairobi's all share posting gains. Bosede Ebu, Business Express.
And back home in Nigeria, the bulls had it this Friday on the Nigerian stock market as the market appreciated by 0.24% to close at 34,885.51 basis points, 190 million shares valued at 3.3 billion naira traded by investors in 3,976 deals were transacted on the floor of the market, with market capitalization at 18.2 trillion naira. Transcorp, Access and FBN Holdings were the toast of investors at the end of the day, recording the highest volume of trade. And with the stock market report, we've come to the end of this edition of Business Express. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is at NTA News Now and the hashtag is BizX. Business Express returns on Monday by 3 p.m. I am Muplang Dakok. Stay safe.